Hi everybody, this is your grief guide, Lisa. I'm with my friend Jean here today, and Jean lost her husband, who she says was her high school sweetheart and the love of her life. And so she is going to share her story with us today. So thanks, Jean, for being here.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
To share my story, to try to help somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I had nowhere to go. I just, unfortunately, had a brand new minister in our church and didn't feel comfortable going to him. So it was really hard.
Yeah.
Plus, my husband did not want anyone to know that he was sick. Which made it even more difficult because I wasn't supposed to talk about it to anybody. But my prayer shawl group at church, they knew, and they were the ones that were supporting me. And my lay minister, she was wonderful too. But yeah, he was diagnosed August the 6th of 2018, and he had kidney cancer. We went through removing a kidney on a Monday. He was released on Wednesday to come home, and Sunday we are sitting in church. You would never know. He looked good, he felt good, didn't take any pain medicine. So this is a man who had never ever missed one day of work in his entire life. So he didn't know what it was like to be sick on top of everything else. And we did that. We did everything that the doctors told us to do. I felt like we did it. And one thing led to another. He wasn't able to finish a full round of even chemotherapy. And it ended up in December. He got in such pain that I had to take him to the emergency room, and they found that they had to do life or death surgery within 2 hours. And he goes, well, what's my options? And I'm going, honey, there are no options. This is what we have to do. So he did, and that's the last I got to talk to my husband. Because after the surgery, he was in ICU, and our children were coming for Christmas, and we had to make the decision that is the most hardest thing in the world to do, but it was what he wanted. And so through it all, I felt that I did do his last wishes. I fulfilled those last wishes. But it's very hard because you feel like you're the bad person because you made that decision. But my children, which are adult children, they helped and they agreed, so that was good. But from that moment on, I shut down. I was living 12 hours from our children, which is where we had moved from. And the first thing the kids said, we want you to move home. So in August of 2019, I packed up our entire home and moved back to Illinois to be with our children and grandson. Because you do need family. I learned that I needed my family. And I don't regret that. I'm very happy to have my children here because my children have been a big help. More my daughter than my son, but I think that's just because, I don't know. It's not that way in every family, but for me, she's my rock. And
I think you make a good point, Jean, and I say this all the time with grieving people, is that here you are, you've lost the love of your life. You had to make very difficult medical decisions, end of life decisions that nobody wants to make. Nobody wants to be in that position, right?
And the thing of it is too, he and I didn't have those so important last conversations, because we thought that when we did what all the doctors said, that he's going to be better. And we did it, and then he wasn't. And we just put all of our faith that he would end up being okay. So we didn't have those last minute conversations.
Sure.
So that was,
of course,
a part of
pain on top of pain.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
but you said that I just knew I needed to be by family, right? I just knew, and I always say this, like in the midst of such grief and pain and loss, like it's amazing that we somehow know inside what we need, and we often feel like we don't know what we need because we're so all over the place.
Definitely. But they're your comfort. I mean, they're the people that know you the best. I mean, for me, for my children, I nurtured so for me, that's what I had. I mean, that was the logical place for me to go.
Sure.
And
so talk a little bit about then when you did make obviously this big move on your own, then where did your grief journey go from there?
Well, I have to back up a minute too to let you know that my husband was a professional person in the business world, and for his job we had moved 17 times in 35 years of marriage, and one of those was even out of the country to British Columbia. So this was the first time, after losing him, that I was living alone, because I was still in college when we got married. And so I went from basically the dorm to being married, and we've been together ever since. I mean, so I had to first get over the hurdle of being by myself, making all the decisions by myself, which I can do. I found out that I can do that, but we were a team. We weren't just husband and wife. We were a team, and we could take an issue and we could just talk it until it was blue. But the decision that we came up with, we could live with, because we discussed it and looked at the different options and so forth. So for me to pack up the entire house in East Tennessee and move to Northern Illinois, it was hard just because I didn't have anybody there to help me make decisions, and it was all on me. And so it was hard. It was hard. And then to have to set up a home that he wasn't going to be there. It was just mine. And that was lonely. My son ended up living with me because he was looking for a house, and it was easier for the two of us to live together, and that was great. And I think that's something God had planned for us, that having him live with me was another way to help me heal, because I did have him, and I had him during COVID when you weren't supposed to go anywhere, and so forth. So he helped me heal.
So what else would you say, as you went along in your grief journey, what else would you say helped you heal? Or find your way, at least?
Find my way. I finally realized that there were a lot more circumstances within me that I needed to work out. Before my husband's diagnosis of being sick, I'd lost my mother in April of 2018. And she and I were very, very close. It was a blessing for her, but it was really hard because it was during COVID, and I couldn't be with her, because she was a far distance from me. So I don't think I had worked through the loss of my mother, and then I immediately was thrown into everything that you do when your spouse is sick and doing all that, and then the death of him. So I realized that I needed to go for counseling. So I reached out and I found a counselor, and she's wonderful. I mean, because I still go. She's wonderful. She's helped me with a lot of just other things that I needed to work through to help me try to get through the grief of my husband. And so that was a big step for me. Just, I don't know why, again, it just is. And I know how hard it is to make that step, but I'm very happy that I made that step. And Then my daughter, she said to me one day that we were talking, she said, you know, Mom, you have come a long way. I'm very proud of where you are. But I think you need more, because you don't go out, you don't do anything. And, which is true. I would stay in bed and I would beg off a lot of the times to do things, even with my children, say I had a migraine, because I didn't want to be with people. I was in a hole. I buried myself in a hole. And then from her talking, she said, I think you need to go to group therapy. And I go, I pondered it. And then I found Lisa with Grief Guide. And I have to say, and I have said this in our group sessions, which are wonderful. It's almost like you form a family. I mean, of a sort. That I have said things to the group that I have not said to anyone else. And I think it's because they don't judge me. They understand to a degree that I have my own grief. Each person has their own, and no two are alike, and at all, because the circumstances and everything is just different. So I have to say, Lisa and her Grief Guide group have done wonderful things for me, because I mean, it's been 6 years since I've lost my husband.
Sure.
And I know I'm not living the life that he would want me to live. I know that. But it's just hard.
Of course. Yeah, of course. I think you said a couple of things that I think are really important, that I think people need to hear again and to be assured of. And that is that you needed somebody outside of yourself to help you sort out so much of your grief, from your mother to your husband to the caretaking to all of it.
And it can't, and I hate to interrupt you, Lisa, but I felt that it couldn't be my good friends, because we've lived in so many, I mean, we moved 17 times. I mean, we have friends all over the United States. So it's not like I can go to them, because they know you, they care about you and your well-being. You need somebody that is a professional, has had schooling and experience. They know what to do. They know the questions to ask. Even though a lot of times, let me tell you, I felt like I went through a box of Kleenexes and I left with red eyes, but
of course.
But they know the questions. And there is not one thing wrong with saying, I need help. I need professional help.
Yes, thank you
because
for
if
saying
you
that.
don't,
yes,
I feel that you're only going to go deeper into that hole. And I didn't want to. I wanted to come out of that hole. I want to be a person again.
Right. No, of course. And then recognizing too that you even needed maybe more support, right? And finding a Grief Guide group.
Yes.
And what I always say is that, and I think you said it too, like, you know, when you sit in that circle, you know that everyone there is not going to try to fix you.
No,
right?
they aren't.
They're not going to try to give you suggestions of what you should be doing. Like, we're there sharing our own pain, our own journey, and hopefully along the way, and sharing what's working or helping us help somebody else.
And the other thing of too is, we're kind of in this together. We all have our own things, but yet when you listen to somebody else's, you can say, theirs is a lot worse than mine. Because there are situations that I sit in circle and I do feel, you have it so much harder than I have it.
Well, and I think it also deconstructs the myth of grief that's perpetuated, is that no one understands and that we're alone. Now, grief is very lonely, of course, because it's a journey we have to walk ourselves.
Oh, yes.
And it's not true, though, that other people don't understand. It's not the same grief, as you said, but certainly pain speaks to pain, right?
Well, and yes, and the thing of it is that I have my master's degree in education. I've had several classes. I, grew up in the church, went to church. I don't know where. I can't remember ever knowing any knowledge that I gained on how to deal with grief. Nobody ever has talked about grief. And unfortunately for myself, and I say unfortunately, even though it's a fortunate thing, I did not go to a funeral until I was 20 years old. My grandparents all lived until their 90s, so I was married and had kids before I lost my grandparents, and there was just never a reason for me to go. So, and that ended up being my future father-in-law's funeral. That was my first one. And I remember that was really hard, but through time you work through it. But I don't know where there's anything that ever says how you get through grief, because I don't know if you can actually write an explicit book. There can never be this is 1, 2, 3, because everyone's different.
Yes, exactly. So you would say that like being by family,
Yes.
reaching out for help.
Yes,
finding-
professional help.
Yeah, professional.
And I'm not saying that your good friends aren't a big help too,
Of
because
course.
they have been. But there comes a point in time where you need that professional help. Possibly not everybody. And I'm not sitting here saying everybody, you have to run out and find a counselor. I'm not saying that. It's just for my situation, I felt that's what I needed. And my children agreed, and I did it.
Sure.
And I'm not ashamed that I did it at all.
Sure.
I mean, it's helped with a lot of things.
Sure. Well, and I think too, it speaks to, there's stigma attached to grief. There's stigma attached to a therapy,
because people don't realize that there's no books on it. There's no way to learn how to handle it.
No. And
So you need to go to people that have the education, like you, Lisa. You're a minister.
Mm-hmm.
You've had many classes on death and dying, and so you have been in your classes taught how to help somebody walk through this.
and my own
And your own
lived
experiences,
experience.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
yes.
unfortunately.
Not that we need to ever, and I have said this in group, and I hope it never offended you. We can't put you up on a pedestal because you're just like the rest of us. So you're
Yes.
not on that pedestal.
No.
You're still in the same
Yes.
circle, equal with us, because you have experienced such deep
Yes.
grief too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Which in a way I think might make you even better at this, because you have experienced it. So you understand
Right.
when somebody comes to you going, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this.
Sure. Well, yeah, because I'm clearly not just speaking from a textbook.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
life experiences.
Yeah. So Jean, if you had to say to somebody who's listening in and really struggling with this grief of losing the love of their life, what's one more thing you'd like to say?
Don't be ashamed of it. It's genuine. That person, and I'm going to be honest, pets too. I've lost pets before that just, oh my gosh, just crushed me. And so I don't even put them out of the category. But don't be ashamed of your feelings and how you're feeling. It's okay that, that person or that pet has been a part of your life. I mean, my husband was a part of my life since middle school. I mean, he's the first gentleman I ever went out with. It was prom. I mean, his mother was my second grade school. I mean, we go back so far that I never had a life without him. And that leaves you really lost. But I just say, really try to find a group like Grief Guide that you can try to go to. And they're not going to fix you the first time. Don't give it just one time. Don't give it even 2 times. Give it a couple of times, because different people are there at different times, because it's a sit down situation. Come as, whenever you can. So give it a couple of times, because your first time when you're not thinking clearly. Oh man, I wasn't thinking. I was in that fog for a
Right.
very long time. In fact, they tell you don't do anything major for a year after you've lost somebody. I made a major move. I sold a house, I bought a house, but I had friends that were helping me through that were,
Sure.
So I just say, tuck that pride away and just take that big step and do it. I don't think you'd ever regret it, because even if you get a little bit of help, just a little bit, it's worth it.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. As you know, at Grief Guide, we always say never apologize for your tears, right? And your tears are sacred. You have lost somebody you love deeply. There's nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah, because
There's
nobody
nothing to
will ever
hide.
replace that person.
No, and of course.
Nobody will ever replace
No.
that person.
Of course, and nothing to hide, right?
No.
These are real, deep, painful emotions.
They're almost like battle wounds.
Yeah, right. That we get to have.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Well, I really appreciate you being with us today, Jean, and sharing your story. And it's so deep and so meaningful. And I know that those who are going to listen in are going to be really helped. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye bye.